You enjoy it when you don't have to talk too much?
It's like listening to you bang on.
There you go. 7 years.
Nonsense. Your ramble.
So what do you want to say then? Come on. What are you going to say? What are you going to say in the beginning? Coming up, what does change look like in 2017 when it comes to media accountability? Hello and welcome to IDCom's Media Snack, episode 62. We are continuing our theme looking at change in the industry in 2017. If you've recalled from previous episodes, we're looking at change and focusing on three particular areas. We've looked at how change will impact advertisers in media.
That's right. Last week we looked at how change will impact within the agency world.
Yep. And on this episode, we're going to dig into changes in media accountability. Yeah.
And so we again see more questions. We've identified three good ones, and so we'll try and address those.
Good. All coming up on today's Media Snack in just the time it takes to eat a sandwich. Okay, first question. Now the first question actually comes from a media director, someone that we know quite well, and they've said, we've been following a pretty traditional audit-based tracking of our media spend, so they've used traditional media auditing. Does this still make sense? And if not, how do we make the transition to a different set of metrics for media?
It's a good question. The audit will always be important. But it's not the only indicator of success. As a media director, you need to make sure that your media investment is working as hard as possible. And the audit is only one element of that. A greater focus, I think, should be making sure that planning and strategic thinking is held accountable.
Because the traditional media audit typically just looks at the buying performance of an agency.
That's right. And the real value, I think, comes in the smart thinking. But that also forces you as a client to be held to account in terms of the briefing processes that you put in to ensure that you're getting the smartest thinking out of the agencies. There's the compliance element of a contract, making sure that the agencies are held to account for everything that they've put through. Making sure that the agencies are providing you with the right kind of service that enables you to sort of manage that business properly. There's multiple areas of accountability that I think go beyond simply the kind of the auditing piece.
And those are really interesting kind of proxies, new metrics that you might want to consider if you're in charge of media investment. These are other ways, these are other indicators that your media dollars are working as hard as they can.
That's right.
The traditional media audit offered by the kind of audit firms that you all know, I mean, that hasn't really innovated hugely in the last 20 years, really. It still looks at benchmarking at price and then making sure that agencies are buying at the prices that they guarantee. I mean, there are variations of that, but that's essentially what they do. It's an important indicator of success. I think the problem that the industry's had, or the challenge now, is that we've become so accustomed to think about media on a commercial basis because of that. Because we think about media and we just think about the price and the discount and the audit performance. And for many businesses, that has been the indicator that media investment is working.
That's right.
But it's not. It's like one tiny component, because it doesn't tell you that you've sold more. It doesn't, and it doesn't account for creativity and the great ideas and things and great planning. And it also doesn't hold the client to account to be to be good at media. It trusts it all to the audit.
Absolutely, and that's where the reframing of the conversation needs to take place, moving away from price to a value discussion. And if you can get the value discussion in play, then you are going to be forced to hold that media to account in terms of driving business outcomes. And that's the truest form of media accountability.
So our challenge to you, if you ask or you have a question similar to that, is think about the business outcomes, right, that media is supposed to be driving, and then you'll realize that the results of a media audit is just one consideration that you should take, and you need to take a more holistic view, we think, on how hard your media dollars are working in the future.
So the next question comes from an agency leader. Okay, making a link between media and business success requires complex attribution modeling. If clients aren't willing to pay for this, then it's difficult to demonstrate how much we are adding.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've got a bit of sympathy for that, because there's a lot of agencies, I think, that feel squeezed a little bit like that. And this is related in part to the previous question. It's a symptom of media or agencies having to be more accountable, which is part of a symptom of media and marketing being more accountable for company money that's being invested to drive an outcome, and marketing directors and media directors increasingly having to explain to their business what actually this is for and what's it's driving. And of course, the knock-on effect is that agencies then get put under greater scrutiny. You know, if you are an agency working for a client where you have where attribution and accountability is really possible, like an e-commerce business, for example, then you can go down that road of becoming ever more granular and forensic, and to optimize against that outcome because it's trackable. But if you're working with a kind of an offline business, let's just say an FMCG or CPG business, that's difficult. And probably it's a symptom of a marketer or a media director client thinking that attribution is where they should be going, because that sounds good. It sounds like good accountability. But I think sometimes that comes from laziness. You know, I think it's sometimes ridiculous where we find that a marketer will be investing huge energy in setting up complex attribution models and modeling and dashboards, and then you go, yeah, but you can't brief your agency. You then look at what they're briefing the agency, and it's kind of crappy. It's like on an email, and they're not setting out clear objectives for what they're trying to achieve, but then forensically trying to measure everything that they can spot, which is a total imbalance.
Yeah. But equally, if a client isn't willing to pay for attribution modeling, I think then the challenge is on the agencies to educate and inform. We talk about reframing the discussion around value. And it's a difficult discussion if a client has been obsessed with price and media outcomes rather than business outcomes. But the challenge is to, drive that client forward in the right kind of way, make them slightly more progressive perhaps in the way that they link media to a business outcome. And the best way to do that, I think, is to challenge the remuneration model. Put at risk some income in line with business performance. And that gesture alone, I think, will certainly open the discussion up to trying finding a link between smart media delivery and business outcome. Yeah,
agree. And that's a good collaborative process. So if you're an advertiser, work with your agency, right, to agree and align on those KPIs. Find the payment model that incentivizes all the right behaviors on the agency side, and then measure shared success. That's it. I mean, this has to be a much more collaborative effort, I think. Okay, so final question of today is actually about metrics. And the question is, we are starting to lose trust in digital metrics. How do we change that?
Yeah, and if I was a client, this would be the question that I would have asked. So, last year was frankly terrifying in the way that, we came across key measurement issues around digital. This is a medium that should be more accountable than anything else. I've spent the last 5 years heavily investing in digital channels, and now you're telling me that most of the measurement metrics that I get back are either flawed or incorrect, and that's not good enough. If I, as a marketeer, am losing faith in digital measurement, then we are in real trouble. And it is the marketing community that need to get together and solve this. And I think that this is the greatest challenge that we will have in 2017. And it's not just the responsibility of vendors, it's not just the responsibility of marketeers or agencies, but collectively we need to get to grips with this. And we need to reassure marketeers that this is a digital measurement is something that can be trusted.
Yeah, great. And I think that comes from There are clearly some fixes where there have been errors in measurement and metrics, which have been kind of highly discussed and high-profile ones. And there's likely to be more of those. I think we'll probably find some other larger vendors, discovering some holes in their own metrics as well. And this is not going to go away immediately. If you take a step back, what the digital landscape needs to do is help marketers simplify that complexity.
Yeah.
There's so many things. It goes back to this like forensic measurement, granularity of measurement. It's very hard to look at the digital landscape and isolate and say, how does that drive a business outcome?
Yeah.
It's just more layers of things and activities and things that you can measure in ever more precise ways.
Yeah.
It doesn't really help us drive that business outcome. It doesn't reassure marketers that this is all worth it.
Yeah.
Because it may all be working in isolation, but is it really driving sales?
Yeah.
Is it really growing brands? That, I think, is the big question that as an industry, they've got to come together and simplify and reassure the marketing community that this is worthwhile. This is a worthwhile investment.
Yeah.
It's not just a measurable activity, that it's something which has an impact.
Yeah.
And so there's going to require either consolidation, simplification, greater collaboration across lots of different platforms and media to make this workable. Otherwise, as you say, marketers will lose faith. Yeah. They will stop investing in it.
And I think, as you say, it's a collaborative process. I don't think that it would be fair for a marketer to point the finger at an agency and get this sorted. I think they have to sit together with vendors and work out how we improve the reliability of metrics coming through.
Yeah.
But as you say, attributing outcomes with digital performance is a really good way of starting.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's some good challenges for the year. We expect a ton of change this year. It's going to be very exciting. If you haven't done yet, go back and have a look at episodes 59, 60, 61, where we look at other areas of this. But I think this concludes our January obsession with change. Let's see actually what happens now. Okay, that's all for this week. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.
Have a good weekend.